everybody, welcome back to another Sewcialites 3 video. This week we're sewing a block 22, the Down to Earth block designed by Wendy Shepherd. I'm working on both the 6 and the 9-inch blocks. All my fabric information is below in the description box. I have everything cut and ready to go. There's a lot of pieces for this. This is the 6-inch block up here, A through G, and my 9-inch block down here, A through G. When I downloaded this and looked at it, the first thing I did was went to the second page and I saw all the parts and pieces. We've got 5 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to make this block. It makes it look really complicated, but if you look at it, all we have are 4 flying geese. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and the rest of it is all squares and rectangles. We need to be careful we have everything in the right spot and we'll be fine. Let's start by building our flying geese. If you're drawing lines, you can draw a diagonal line on the wrong side of your fabric C squares. I'm going to use my diagonal seam tape over at the Juki. I need fabric C and fabric D for both my blocks. Let's go ahead and pull these down. We've got a fabric C and a fabric D. This is my 6-inch block. I'm going to slide that. It's going to go off camera for a minute. And then I've got my fabric C and my fabric D for my 9-inch block. Here's the fabric for both my blocks. You want to make sure that it's right sides together. If you're drawing lines, fabric C is the one you want to draw the line on the square, and you would draw corner to corner, and then you can place that. We've done flying geese before, and sew corner to corner, and then you have to trim and press. That would be half your flying geese, and then the next time when you put your square down, your line is going to run this way, and then that corner will flip out. And as we're sewing these, we've done this before too, after you sew corner to corner, you can always flip it, check it, make sure it's lining up nice, make sure you didn't sew it on so it's crooked, you don't have to unpick it and start over. And we're going to do this half of these and we'll check them, and then we'll do the next half. Let's start with our 6-inch first. You'll have a rectangle. We'll grab one of our rectangles and we'll grab our square. If it has a right and a wrong side, you want to make sure that it's right sides together. Lay that down, line up all the spots, make sure that's good, that's good, that's good. It's nice and lined up. I'm going to go top corner to bottom corner. Let's go ahead and sew that corner to corner. I can use the red line on my diagonal seam tape. We'll just go ahead and do one in real time today. Go ahead and sew that. I can cut my thread. I've got a thread cutter on the foot pedal. Once you've sewn that, before you trim this off, you can flip it and check it. That looks really good. I'm going to just trim this with scissors. You can measure with a ruler and trim a 1/4 inch away, but this one's pretty small. Bigger scissors would probably be better, but that's what's sitting on my sewing machine. Then you can take this to your iron and give it a good press. Let's go ahead and sew the other side. That way you can see what this looks like. I'm going to use this little seam roller. Nice and flat. That'll be just fine for this. Let's take our next fabric C, like that. We'll set this one down. Make sure everything is lined up nice and straight. And then this time, this corner to this corner. Let's sew that. We'll go ahead and do this in real time, start to finish. Right down the middle. A little bit crooked there, but it'll probably be okay. Cut the thread. You can kind of see I did start a little crooked. I'm not quite at the corner. Do you see that? It's a little bit off. So let's have a look. That's what happens when you don't get that started right. Do you see how crooked that is? I'm going to have to fix that. So let's fix it. I'm going to grab my seam ripper. You can see by looking at it how far off I am from the corner. Do you see that? It's way over to the left. So it's going to be crooked if you do stuff like that, which is what I did. Lay it down again. And then I want to go corner to corner. Make sure that I'm on the corner of my fabric. Right there. You can even hand crank your needle down. And then go corner to corner. And we'll check that one. I think the other side might be just a bit crooked, but that's okay. That's much better. Let's flip that up. A little bit off, but I'm good with that. I know when I go to sew this in, I can even this up and then get that in my block. I need to make 3 more of these, and then I need to make the 4 with these for my 9-inch. I've got the first side of my flying geese done. Now we need to do the other side. got our flying geese here. We're ready to lay out the block. That's the only little piece you have to sew before you can do your final layout. Get your picture nearby. I'm going to go ahead and turn this like this and set it over here next to me off camera, and we'll start laying out our block. Our top row has a flying geese pointing up. This was the one I did in real time on camera. It is the most crooked out of all of them. I'll just go ahead and deal with it as I sew it in. It'll be fine. We're going to put a fabric A on either side. That's your top row. The next row, you're going to have a fabric B, a fabric E, and then another fabric B. It's your second row. The middle row, we have a flying geese on the outside on both sides, pointing out. So one there, one there. Then we want to take our fabric F, so you should have two of these. They're going to go next to your flying geese, here and here, and fabric G. There's just one. I cut a nice pretty piece with all the little strawberries and flowers for my fabric G. That's going to go in the center. And then we're going to build the last two rows the same as this row. Grab your fabric E, a couple of fabric Bs, there and there. And then we've got our flying geese pointing out, down, up, out. They're all pointing away from each other. And our two fabric A's. So we have 5 rows to sew together for this block. You want to sew this row, this row, this row, this row, this row. Let's look at the pressing instructions. When you look at the pressing instructions, you can see with this row and this row, none of the seams match. It does have us pressing away from the flying geese. Here it has us pressing away from fabric E, and it's kind of hard to see. My printer printed a little weird, but here we're pressing in. So the flying geese, you're pressing in, and then you're pressing in toward the G. So when you press out here and press in here, that will nest. Pressing out and pressing out. We've sewn quite a few blocks at this point. I'm going to go ahead and sit down and sew this, but I'll time lapse it all. You can watch me sew that, and you can sew together your block. I also need to lay out my 9-inch block. Let's take a quick look at this before I go press it. I started from the center and I sewed out because we had seams that nested right here and right here. When I went to sew the top and the bottom strips, I noticed when you have them like this seam line right here is matching up with this seam right here. This line matches with this line. So you can see by looking at this, I'm a little off on this side. While there's no actual seam in this part of the block, this is a solid piece of fabric. This seam technically should line up straight with that seam down there. I did better on this side. That's nice and straight. So this one's a little crooked. Let's look at the other side. That looks pretty good. You can kind of follow the line down. It's actually over a little bit to the right again, and then this one lines up pretty good. So I have the same issue on both sides. I'm going to go ahead and press this and sew my 9-inch block, and we'll go over to the table and we'll get a good look at both of them. Here's my 6-inch block. I've got my 6.5-inch square ruler. I think it's short. Got your money, everybody? Place your bets. Here we go. It's pretty much a sure bet. Yep, it's short. Not much though. It's interesting. It's about 1/4 of an inch short on this side and barely short on this side. So it's kind of rectangle. I need to decide how I want to trim that down, if I want it to be more square or if I'm okay with it being crooked. I'm okay with it being crooked. I know a lot of my blocks are crooked as they're going into the quilts. Everything will be fine. I'll press everything. It'll be good. I'm just going to get rid of some of these little extra strings here and on this side, and then we'll look at the 9-inch block. The 9-inch block I pressed the same way. I didn't press these seams open, but I sprayed this with water. I gave it a steam press. Let's see if it makes a difference. This is nice and flat. Got my square ruler here. Go ahead and line that up. We're looking at, no, interestingly enough, it's about the same thing. Here's 9.5. I'm a little bit short here. 9.5 is right here. Not much short there. So clearly the way I sew and the way I press gave me the same results on both blocks. What I am going to do is even this up. This is just a little bit jagged. I'm going to grab another ruler. I want to double check my 1/4 inch to make sure it's okay to trim so I won't lose my point when it goes in the quilt. It'll be fine. There's my 1/4 inch. There's the point on my flying geese. I've got this lined up with one of my seams. It's nice and straight. I can cut off the extra here. And then we'll check the other side. This will just make it go into the quilt a little bit easier. It's still going to be a little bit off size, but it'll be fine. We've got both our blocks, 9-inch and 6-inch, all done. We only have a few more to go. This is block number 22. There's 25 blocks in total, and then we'll be making the filler blocks and putting our quilt together. Comments or questions, please leave them below the video, and I'll be back again next week for block number 23. See you next time!